Welcome to Starbound, where every star tells a story. Ever imagine stumbling upon an ancient, colossal structure in the depths of space, alive and pulsing with secrets? Let's get into the story. Commander Silas Dre of the Xandarian scout vessel Vindicator squinted at the sensor display. The readings didn't make any sense. In the vast emptiness of uncharted Sector 212, there shouldn't be anything other than the usual smattering of asteroids and the faint glimmer of distant stars. Yet there it was, an undeniable energy signature, cloaked somehow, but unquestionably massive.
"Intruders? Pirates?"
His Lieutenant Tara muttered. Xandarian patrols rarely ventured this far into the outer territories. It was considered a dull, thankless posting, precisely why Silas was struck here after a minor disciplinary incident back home. "No," Silas replied, zooming into the sensor readings. "Whatever it is, it's too big. No pirate ship is this colossal. And what kind of fool cloaks something this size?" The image resolved further, an impossibly smooth arc like a colossal sliver of a shattered moon, shimmering faintly where the cloaking tech faltered. Silas had seen relics from the ancients, the fabled progenitors whose ruins sometimes graced backwater systems, yet even those remnants never hinted at a structure of this magnitude. "Magnify. Can we penetrate this cloak?" Silas ordered. His heart was pounding. This was no routine patrol anymore. This was a discovery that could change his career, the kind that expunged disciplinary records. The Vindicator inched closer, its hull creaking under the strain as Silas pushed its sensor capabilities to their limit. The image swam before their eyes, and then the first gasp of awe emerged from the bridge crew.
"By the twin moons, are those habitats?"
Tara breathed. Outlined against the ark's vastness were geometric shapes, biodomes, habitation modules, the unmistakable lines of docking bays large enough to swallow multiple Xandarian cruisers. But more chilling still were the faint energy signatures. This wasn't a relic, it pulsed with life. Silas's mind raced. Every instinct screamed to report his finding, claim it for Xandria, return home a hero. Yet a nagging doubt pricked at him. An ancient race capable of engineering this wouldn't cloak it so haphazardly, wouldn't leave it so defenseless. "Open a secure comms channel, highest encryption," he turned to Tara. "Alert Central Command, but word it carefully. Potential discovery, security risk, advise caution. No sense setting off a panic across half the galaxy." Transmission delays in the outer reaches were excruciating. Silas paced the bridge, an ant crawling atop a sleeping giant in comparison to the behemoth they orbited. He'd ordered the Vindicator to maintain a safe distance, cloaking systems on maximum. Even if they'd been spotted, a single scout vessel posed little threat to something of this scale. "Lieutenant," he addressed Tara, "prepare the landing module. I want a small team ready to make first contact on my orders." Tara's eyes widened.
"Sir, protocol dictates."
"Protocol dictates when we know what we're dealing with," Silas shot back. "Right now, for all intents, we've stumbled upon some colossal booby trap. If whatever inhabits this thing is hostile, we may have just triggered a galactic war." The comm signal finally chirped. Relief coursed through him at the familiar emblem of High Command. It was Admiral Keth, his craggy face creased with concern, even through the hazy transmission.
"Commander Gray,"
the Admiral's gravelly voice echoed through the bridge.
"Your report is alarming. Are you certain?"
"Visual confirmation, Admiral," Silas replied, bringing up the primary sensor display. "There's no mistaking it. A structure of colossal size with clear signs of active life support." He watched Keth's expression tighten further.
"The Council will be in an uproar,"
the Admiral muttered. "Permission to investigate, sir?" Silas pressed. "Awaiting your orders." The line went silent for a stretch too long. Finally, Keth spoke, his voice now edged with steel.
"Negative, Commander. I am deploying a task force to relieve you. Your orders are simple. Maintain observation. Do not engage. And above all, ensure this situation remains contained."
Fury bubbled in Silas's gut. This was his discovery, and now they were sending some fleet admiral to claim the glory. Just as he was about to protest, there was a new flicker across the sensor screens.
Admiral? Tara cried. Multiple signals converging. They're not ours.
Silas snapped a glance at the display. At least a dozen ships larger than his scout vessel were racing towards the hidden arc, their energy patterns unfamiliar.
Unidentified warships inbound, Silas relayed. This is about to get a lot more complicated, sir.
Damn it, Dre.
Admiral Kest's face with a mask of fury.
Get your ship out of there. Those are probably scavengers drawn in by whatever power readings you've been leaking.
Silas felt a surge of defiance. And now his superiors wanted him to abandon it to the first scavengers with a pulse? Negative, Admiral, he retorted, forcing an even tone. If those ships reach that arc, we have no way of predicting the fallout. He motioned to Tara. Lieutenant, prep my shuttle. We're boarding the arc.
Delay that order!
Keth roared. The transmission flickered under the strain of competing signals. Silas ignored him. He'd come too far to turn back now. With luck and a dose of recklessness, he might just turn disaster into a diplomatic triumph. He turned to his lieutenant. You have the bridge, Tara. Keep those unknowns occupied. Delay them if you can. Comms on loop to High Command. Tell them I'm taking initiative. There was no time for arguments. He dashed for the launch bay, a handful of security details scrambling behind him. Within moments, the shuttle lurched out of the Vindicator, streaking across the void towards the enigmatic arc. The closer they got, the more its true scale sank in. He'd been calling it an arc, but it seemed more like a slice of a small planet, its surface a patchwork of metallic skin and flickering biodomes. Picking up defensive systems, his pilot announced grimly. Automated turrets, looks like some kind of railgun setup. Evasive maneuvers. Find us a blind spot and we'll get us close, Silas ordered. The closer he got, the more an unsettling suspicion solidified. This wasn't an abandoned relic. This was a fortress masquerading as one. The shuttle shuddered as a beam of energy washed over them, a warning shot.
Shuttlecraft approaching the arc.
A voice echoed through their comms, cool and female.
Identify yourselves and state your intentions immediately.
Silas grabbed the comms device.
This is Commander Silas Dre of the Xandarian Empire. We come in peace, requesting immediate parley with your leadership. Repeat, we come in peace.
After seconds that felt like hours, the reply came through, laced with an undercurrent of suspicion. We will grant you access. Proceed to Docking Bay Alpha 5. You will be escorted. The docking bay was cavernous enough to house a small fleet. As the shuttle lowered itself into the harshly lit chamber, Silas couldn't help but feel a prickle of unease. This ark wasn't just a refuge. It was a mobile war machine, capable of defending itself against the might of a small armada. Just who exactly had they stumbled upon? The shuttle jerked to a halt. Armed figures awaited them, clad in utilitarian jumpsuits and helmets that hid their faces completely. No welcoming committee. This is a reception designed for prisoners, not guests. Silas stepped out, flanked by his security detail, weapons raised but not aimed. A tense standoff ensued. Finally, one of the figures stepped forward, pushing back their visor. He was human. His dark eyes, creased with both age and a weariness that Silas found unsettling, swept over the Xandarian group. Welcome to Elysium, the man said, his voice flat and devoid of warmth. I am Captain Dan Walker. Follow me. As they were marched deeper into the Ark's labyrinthine interior, Silas tried to piece things together. Humans were known, yes, but as a primitive species from the Sol system. Their development stunted by centuries of interplanetary war. Their technology was centuries behind the galactic norm. This was a different species entirely, hardened and advanced in ways that shook Silas's understanding of history. Every meter deeper into the Ark revealed wonders and terrors alike. Self-repairing hull mechanisms that shimmered, hydroponic bays capable of feeding thousands, and defensive systems that made a scout vessel look pathetic in comparison. They entered a vast command center where the hum of activity made a mockery of the primitive classification. People streamed across holographic displays, projections of star maps, ship schematics, and data readouts. Silas couldn't even begin to decipher this. In the center of the chaos was an elevated platform overlooking it all. Captain Walker led him there. My people are the last of our kind. Walker said, his voice amplified across the room. Its inhabitants turned, registering the Xandarian presence with a mix of curiosity and steely resolve. Centuries ago, Earth fell. We, the survivors, took to the stars with what remained, vowing to outlive our hunters. The Elysium is our legacy. Silas's mind whirled. Earth destroyed? By whom? Why? He opened his mouth, 1,000 questions swirling, but Walker raised a silencing hand. I have no interest in rehashing ancient wars, Commander. We've stayed hidden for a reason. Your discovery, he gestured towards the viewport where the Vindicator orbited like a gnat, is unexpected. Unexpected doesn't even begin to cover it, Captain, Silas countered, striving to project authority in the hostile environment. If your people have this technology, why remain in hiding? The Xandarian Empire can offer protection, resources. Protection? Walker scoffed. From whom? From yourselves? Our history is filled with examples of benevolent empires. We will not be your protectorate, Commander. The tension ratcheted up a dangerous notch. Silas's security detail shifted warily, fingers twitching on their weapon holsters. The humans around them subtly moved as well, forming a defensive perimeter.
Peace, both of you.
A new voice cut through the tension. An elderly woman, her face lined and her expression resolute, ascended the steps to stand beside Walker.
Commander Dre, you have stumbled upon a ghost from your own history.
Our history? Silas echoed in confusion. This woman, while human, looked nothing like the images of soul-origin humans in his databanks.
The great exodus, the scattering of our people after the burn,
the woman continued, her voice echoing in the vast chamber.
The soul system is but a relic of what we once were. Elysium holds the last of the true lineage.
Silas struggled to process this. The burn. A fragment of a historical lesson flickered back to him. An unprovoked attack on Earth centuries ago by an unknown aggressor. The event that had stunted humanity's development. You survived. And with this technology, he shook his head. How? Necessity is the mother of invention, Commander, Captain Walker replied grimly. When backed into a corner, a species can surprise even itself. Captain, Silas began cautiously, while I understand your distrust, the galaxy has changed. Xandaria holds no ill will towards humanity. A ripple of disbelief ran through the humans on the platform. Walker held up a hand, silencing the murmurs. We'll need more than Xandarian assurances, Commander. Your arrival and those other ships inbound, he gestured towards the viewport, don't paint a picture of a peaceful galaxy. Silas had to concede that point. The arrival of those unidentified warships was no coincidence. They were likely drawn by the same energy anomalies Vindicator had picked up. Whoever they were, they likely had less than honorable motives. Those unknown, we need to work together to drive them off, Silas offered. It would be a gesture of good faith. His words were met with silence, and then a series of grim looks from the Elysium's command crew.
Trust is a hard-won luxury, Commander,
the elderly woman said, her eyes drilling into Silas.
For centuries, we have survived by trusting no one. Still, danger has a way of forging unusual bedfellows.
Captain Walker tapped a few controls on a nearby control panel. A holographic projection shimmered into existence above them. The Xandarian scout vessel outnumbered at least 5-1 by the converging warships. The unknown were clearly built for speed and aggression, scavengers, as Admiral Keth had guessed, and they were close. Our systems detect energy buildups, Walker confirmed Silas's worst fears. Those ships are gearing for an attack. Captain, you have to evacuate, Silas pressed, or at least let us assist. This is a fight you can't win alone. The Elysium isn't a civilian transport, Walker replied curtly. She has teeth, Commander, and teeth evolve to bite. Silas realized with a jolt that this confrontation wasn't just about survival. These humans craved retribution. They wanted to lash out, to avenge their lost home. His heart sank. This wasn't turning into a diplomatic overture. It was a prelude to a massacre. Before Silas could protest further, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Incoming transmission!" a crew member shouted. "It's the unknowns!" On one of the displays, a face emerged. Unlike the humans or Xandarians, this creature was insectile, its segmented eyes glinting greedily.
"Unidentified ship,"
it rasped in garbled galactic standard.
"Surrender your vessel and whatever cargo you hold. Resistance is futile."
Utter silence fell over the command center as the transmission ended. Even the hum of machinery seemed momentarily subdued. Then, as one, the humans of Elysium turned to their captain. Walker's face was a mask of grim resolve. "They think us easy prey," he said, his voice ringing clear. "Time to show them how wrong they are." He barked a series of orders, and the crew sprang into motion. Silas found himself pushed aside in the wave of focused energy. This wasn't a diplomatic mission anymore. This was war. Through a viewport, he watched as the Ark shuddered. Vast plates slid open, revealing banks of weapons far beyond anything Xandaria's ship could boast. Automated turrets swiveled, targeting the approaching scavengers. "We're maneuvering for attack," Walker's voice echoed through the ship's comm. "Commander, if your ship has any teeth of its own, I suggest you show them." Silas felt a surge of defiance. He'd been outmaneuvered, sidelined by these hardened humans. But he wasn't about to sit idle while a potential massacre unfolded. "Vindicator, this is Commander Dre." He keyed the ship's comms. "Engage defensive protocols. Target those unknowns. We're buying the Elysium some time." He didn't wait for his pilot's confirmation. Turning, he strode to Captain Walker. "My ship is small, but she can harass, distract. You focus on hitting them hard, just try not to wipe us all out in the crossfire, will you?" A flicker of surprise, perhaps even grudging respect, crossed Walker's features. "We'll do our best, Commander," he replied, a hint of grim humor in his voice. "Just don't get in our way." As Silas reached the shuttle bay, he risked one last glance back. The command center was a whirlwind of activity, every human focused, every system charged and ready. These weren't refugees, they were survivors, hardened by centuries in the abyss, and they were about to unleash hell. The Vindicator wasn't built for protracted standoffs. It was a scout, meant for detection and evasion. But desperate times called for a rewrite of doctrine. The pilot, Lieutenant Tara, echoed his desperation. "Commander, we're sitting ducks out here," she said as the first barrage of energy blasts illuminated the space around them. A mix of scavenging ships and return fire from the Elysium. "What's the plan?" "No plan," Silas said grimly, strapping himself in. "Just a whole lot of improvisation." He keyed the weapon systems. "Concentrate fire on their lead ship, try to disrupt their coordination. We make ourselves just annoying enough to pull them away from the Ark." The Vindicator shuddered as it unleashed its meager payload. Laser blasts lanced out, peppering the shielding of the closest scavenger ship with surprising potency. The enemy vessels jolted, surprised by the resistance. Then, as if a hornet's nest had been poked, their focus shifted. "Incoming fire!" Tara cried as the Vindicator found itself the focus of multiple targeting systems. Sweat beaded Silas's brow. His small ship wouldn't last long under such concentrated assault. And yet, for a few precious minutes, it did. The Vindicator zipped crazily through the void, jinking and weaving. Tara was a brilliant pilot, pushing their limited engines to the breaking point. The scavenger ships, more heavily armed but less maneuverable, struggled to land telling blows. Then came a booming rumble that heralded the Elysium's entrance into the fray. The Ark surged forward, the sheer scale of it a weapon in its own right. Its massive cannons unleashed blinding blasts that vaporized a smaller scavenger ship, the shockwave rocking the Vindicator even at this distance. "Holy," Tara breathed, struggling to regain control of their jostled vessel. "I thought he said the Ark had teeth." "More like a whole damn jaw of them," Silas shouted in agreement. The scavenger fleet, clearly not expecting such a powerhouse, broke formation. This was the moment Silas had been hoping for. "Break for that outer edge of the engagement," he commanded. "Lead those scavengers on a chase, keep their attention diverted." Playing the role of a sacrificial lamb wasn't something Silas had covered in officer training. Yet as the Vindicator streaked away, trailed by a vengeful wing of the scavenging fleet, he knew they'd bought Elysium a critical advantage, and perhaps a sliver of trust from their human counterparts. "They took the bait?" Tara exclaimed, a note of relief mixing with the adrenaline in her voice. "We got 2 ships tailing us. Maybe more are joining." "Good. Keep 'em busy," Silas ordered, glancing back at the ferocious battle that raged around the Elysium. The Ark was no longer a silent behemoth. It was a spitting, roaring beast. Each massive discharge of its primary cannon sent ripples through the void. "Elysium to Vindicator," Captain Walker's grim voice crackled over the comms. "Your distraction is appreciated. Now get clear before there's nothing left of you." "And just doing our part, Captain," Silas replied, a knot in his stomach. The Vindicator was already straining, its shields flickering dangerously low. "But we may need some assistance out here."
Reinforcements from High Command are inbound.
A different voice, the elderly woman from the command deck, interjected.
Just hang on a little longer.
"Hang on," Tara echoed, her voice laced with disbelief. "Sir, we're venting atmosphere in Section 3. I'm sealing those bulkheads, but..." Then a searing beam of energy cut through their shields and into the hull itself, the ship groaning in protest. Another blast and they'd be reduced to floating debris. "Incoming!" Silas barked. "It's the Xandarian fleet!" Like a tidal wave, a formation of Xandarian battleships materialized from the warp, immediately opening fire upon the remaining scavengers. The sudden shift in power caught the attackers off guard. Caught between 3 forces, several of their ships exploded in brilliant flashes, the remaining few turning tail in confusion. "About damn time," Silas muttered, slumping back into his seat. The Vindicator, scorched but functional, limped back towards the Elysium as the sounds of battle subsided. This wasn't a victory, it was a reprieve. But with the Xandarian fleet joining the fray, the scavengers had lost the chance at an easy conquest. The aftermath was a maelstrom of activity. Damaged ships, including the battered Vindicator, docked with the Elysium. The cavernous Ark was filled with the wounded, the worried, and the quietly triumphant. Yet as a Xandarian medical team tended to his crew, Silas couldn't shake an unsettling sense of anticlimax. He sought out Captain Walker, finding him conferring with the elderly woman and Admiral Keth, who had materialized on a shimmering holographic display. The Admiral's face held a mixture of grudging approval and deep concern.
"Situation under control, for now,"
Keth was saying.
"Those scavengers were likely the first wave. Other, more organized forces could descend upon us once word gets out."
The Council will convene.
The woman assured him.
Whatever treaties exist will need to be revisited. The galaxy is not as we understood it.
Walker, though weary, met the Admiral's gaze unflinchingly. Revisiting treaties implies Xandria has any say in our future. It does not. His voice was quiet, yet held an unshakable resolve. Our existence is now known. The only guarantee of our survival is to remain unseen, as we have for centuries. "But, Captain," Silas interjected cautiously, a plan forming in his mind. "Xandria could offer protection, resources, open a dialogue." "And in return," Walker countered, "we'd be tethered to another empire, our fate subject to the whims of your council. We learned our lesson, Commander. The darkness is the only place a hunted species can truly thrive." Silas knew defeat when he faced it. He'd risked his career, his life, thinking he could forge a new path. What came next was perhaps even riskier. "Captain, allow Xandria to help you cloak that Ark again. Make it disappear even better than before." Keth whirled on a whim, sputtering in outrage. The elderly woman raised a skeptical eyebrow. Even Walker was taken aback. "Explain yourself, Commander." "Think of it as strategic denial," Silas forged on. "The scavengers will spread word of a powerful ship hidden out here. If we help you disappear, others will assume it was destroyed. You fade back into myth, while we deal with the less cautious enemies." He held his breath. This was treason, plain and simple. But it was also, perhaps, the only way to ensure both human and Xandarian survival amidst a changing galaxy. The silence stretched